today on NYSE Floor Talk is Josh Zweig. He is the CEO and co-founder at Security. Josh, fantastic to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So Josh, I want to start off by talking about the company. Tell me about Security.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks again for having me. But Security's mission is to make security accessible. So we work with companies that generally don't have security teams or big security teams to help them kind of have all the powers and get to the level of security that every company needs to be at today. So we see a lot of companies out there who, they know they need to spend money on security, but they're not really sure what that means or how to exactly approach that. And we like to work with them to basically provide a sort of bundled offering and provide a really clean, easy software solution for them to go from basically zero to being in a pretty good shape on the cybersecurity front without having to invest in a large team. So that's what we do.
So now cybersecurity and third-party risk in the healthcare industry. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last year has been very interesting from this perspective. In the healthcare industry, the healthcare industry is a huge complex web of vendors, organizations, technologies, processes. And in the last year, we've certainly seen that disruptions to these technologies, processes, and this kind of web that makes up healthcare in the United States can lead to pretty meaningful disruption of the ability for healthcare providers to actually provide care and get in the way of access to care for people who might need it. So, traditionally the healthcare industry, a lot of the security and compliance has been focused around things like HIPAA and saying, how can we protect data and do compliance in a really meaningful way? But in the last year, unfortunately, what we've seen is we actually need to go way beyond that. We need to start talking about resilience, and we need to start talking about, well, how do we actually make sure that organizations can continue to provide care in the wake of a cyber attack and continue to run their organization in the first place? So yeah, we've been working with a company called Ambience Healthcare, which is an absolute leader in their space and who's been kind of setting the pace here for what we think it means to do security really well. And what we're doing is we're distributing some resources and kind of help getting the message out there to say, well, hey, how do we actually do this in a meaningful way? How do we kind of change our prioritization? How do we change and add new processes, technologies to make our organizations more resilient in 2024 so that, we can avoid any interruptions to access to care for these healthcare providers.
All right, and Josh, why now? What's different today that created this urgency?
Yeah, absolutely. So even in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, and certainly we've been building up to this for a while, we've gone from the healthcare space and generally in cybersecurity to saying, well, how can I protect my data and my assets, to saying, how can I continue to run my business is actually the really key question in the event of a cyber attack. So that's really the important thing. And that's kind of what we're out here today trying to talk about, to say, well, we need new strategies, we need new technologies. We can't just keep throwing money at this problem as an industry, and kind of some more from a social perspective as well. We certainly need new strategies, new technologies, and new approaches. And we're very excited because we think a lot of the new technologies, whether they be Gen AI technologies like what Ambience is pioneering or otherwise, actually create a lot of opportunity for us to do this a lot better, Judy. Some people can be concerned about new technologies from a risk perspective, but I think generally the way we have to be looking at these is to say, well, how can technologies like generative AI technologies or otherwise actually create more opportunity for us to kind of build more resilient organizations and solve some of these problems in a really meaningful way?
And finally, Josh, tell me, how does this connect to the big picture of cybersecurity and healthcare in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. So, healthcare is, of course, one of the largest industries in the United States, an industry that spends a lot of money on cybersecurity. And we certainly will and will have to continue to spend money on cybersecurity for sure. But really what I think is different now is we need to kind of adjust to these new priorities. And we've seen, well, hey, when a domino falls in the kind of healthcare space here, it can have really meaningful watershed effects, whether it's for healthcare providers and really for the ability to people to get access to their medicine or get care provided to them. So really the critical thing is to say, how can we leverage some of these new technologies to build more resilient organizations and keep that as a top priority for our organizations and to keep the industry resilient.
All right, well, Josh, it's been wonderful to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk today.
Thanks for having me, Judy.